Welcome to the ESI Africa virtual studio, coming to you from the East African Power Industry Convention in Nairobi. Today I have with me Janice Kotut, who is the Regional Director of the East and Southern Africa Guaranco in Kenya, based in Kenya. Welcome, Janice. You just sat on a panel discussion around a very interesting topic around mitigating FX risk through local currency finance solutions. Janice, tell us about what happened on that panel.
Yeah, no, it was a fantastic panel. We had two very experienced people, one with experience more around utility scale solar, and another gentleman who had a lot more experience with developing projects with off-grid projects, off-grid solar projects, sorry. So it was really good because I think we were able to speak to the audience on both sides. On the utility side, I think the conclusion that was reached is that the path to local currency PPAs and therefore local currency financing is probably a journey. It's going to take a while. The speaker was very kindly able to give us examples like South Africa where this has already happened. But if we're in reality, in present, we are still very dollar based in terms of our PPAs. But the key thing to remember there, and what was pointed out, was that that always will leave the utility in a position where they either need to go and hedge out their currency risk, or they need to pass on that currency cost, currency exposure to their consumers.
So there was something around having these projects start and end on a local currency. Is that ever going to happen?
Absolutely. I think that we are going to see projects financed in local currency, certainly starting with the off-grid sector, where already, as we heard in the room, we have projects that are being financed in local currency, either through a loan guarantee, but even more aptly by a local currency securitization with the help of a Garanco guarantee. And it's particularly in the off-grid sector where all your receivables are in local currency. It really lends itself to a local currency financing solution. And as we had, the local capital markets have got sufficient depth. I think a figure of 1 trillion Kenyan shillings was quoted, and a very long tenor of about 30 years, which lends itself naturally towards then infrastructure and certainly power projects. So the off-grid sector is the first immediate starting point for local currency finance, but eventually as well we'll begin to see utility scale projects begin to at least consider local currency tranche as well.
Right. So there was quite a few questions from the audience as well, which I think you were rather surprised about. What came from the audience that were particularly challenging questions?
No, I think there was a very important question asked about the role of governments, because governments have a habit, particularly in this part of the world, of crowding out private sector opportunities. Every time the government needs more funding, it taps the local capital markets, which makes essentially the institutional investors a little lazy and not wanting to look to new asset classes. But I think as we discussed and I think came to the conclusion that given the asset liability mismatch and given the need for diversification, we will begin to see some infrastructure assets in the capital markets as well.
Right. And you had two, as you say, very interesting and dynamic panelists. From their presentations that they gave, what were the two things that struck you as being, oh, this is a light bulb moment?
I think on the utility scale side, it was just good to see the recognition of the fact that even if you have a dollar PPA, you still have an inherent FX risk because your consumers are going to be paying for their power in local currency. Right. On the off-grid side, I think it was good to see the development of solutions in the capital markets for off-grid sector companies.
Great. And a last question for you is where do you see the sector going in East Africa in the next 5 years?
Oh, so I see a rapid growth, continuation of growth actually of the off-grid sector, and I see these off-grid sector companies tapping into the local capital markets. And once we get one company demonstrating it's possible, we're certainly going to see several more come to market.
Right. Thank you so much, Janice. This is Nicolette Pomba-Van editor of ESI Africa, coming to you from the East African Power Industry Convention in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you for listening.